Good evening and welcome to the Monday, November 13, 2017 Board of Education meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So under our town charter, this is a very exciting meeting as the first meeting after the recent elections. We have four board members who will be taking the oath of office this evening. Two of them are new and two of them are rejoining the board after a successful 4 years. I should note that one member, Vinnie Baglio, is not able to be here this evening because although he was recently elected to the board, he had a work-related commitment that he could not move and has promised that he will resolve that in the future and will not miss next meeting or further meetings, but we will figure out an appropriate way to have him sworn in, and he is expecting to attend the next meeting, so we're looking forward to that. But there are four members who will be taking the oath of office tonight, and we are very pleased and very proud to have an alumnus of this board, Judge James Kenefick of the State of Connecticut Superior Court, join us to administer the oath. Judge Kenefick left this board when he was appointed as a Superior Court judge. He was the chairman at the time. I should note that the gymnasium in this building is named in honor of Judge Kenefick for his long service on the board and very valuable service to the board. So, Judge Kenefick, we are very pleased and honored to have you with us here today, and want to thank you.
Thank you, Bill. I'm pleased to have been invited back to do the swearing in. I was on this board from 1975 to 1995. Probably started before some of you were born. It's a wonderful experience being on the board. You do great work, and I follow what you're doing, and I'm very pleased with what I see. I'm going to call up each person individually and swear them in. First, I will have Mary Best. You can join me over here. You raise your right hand. Do you, Mary Beth, solemnly swear that you support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Connecticut, so long as you continue a citizen thereof, and that you will faithfully discharge, according to law, the duties of the office of Board of Education member to the best of your ability, so help me God?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Moira Rader.
Thank you.
Raise your right hand. Do you, Moira Rader, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Connecticut, so long as you continue a citizen thereof, and that you will faithfully discharge, according to law, the duties of the office of Board of Education member to the best of your ability, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Theodore Sands. Now, these are the new members. You may raise your right hand. Do you, Theodore Sands, solemnly swear that you support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Connecticut, so long as you continue a citizen thereof, and that you will faithfully discharge, according to law, the duties of the office of Board of Education member to the best of your ability, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
And finally, Amy Sullivan. I think I was on the board before she was born. Raise your right hand. Do you, Amy Sullivan, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Connecticut, so long as you continue a citizen thereof, and that you will faithfully discharge, according to law, the duties of the office of the Board of Education member to the best of your ability, so help you God?
I will.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for having me, and good luck.
Thank you, Judge
Thank
Kenefick.
Thank you, Judge.
I'm sorry that we have some organizational issues here this evening, but we have some organizational issues here this evening. This is just the way it is. Item 4 on the agenda is election of officers of this board. The rules are that we will have 3 officers, a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. Each of the ballots has to be by paper under the board bylaws. And then there would not be committee appointments this evening, but eventually there would be committee appointments, and each committee would elect chairs, but that's not tonight's issue. So the first item, I think, would be to nominate and vote on a chair, and then we move to the other 2 officers.
I'd like to nominate Bill Bloss. After all the years, we're very fortunate that he's returning again and seated next to me. I'd like him to sign up again to be chair this term.
And I'd like to second that motion.
All right, are there any other nominations? If not, we have to, as I say, fill out the salmon-colored form and pass it to your left, and the secretary will tally it. Do we need to fold these over?
Some of us have long names.
Hurry up and count because the suspense is really killing us here.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. I genuinely do appreciate the confidence that the board has placed in me. I think this is easily the most one of the most consequential things I've ever done, and I have thoroughly enjoyed being the chair for the last however many years it is. But it's been an exciting time, and I'm very grateful for your confidence. But if we could move then to vice chair.
I would like to nominate Gary Kaizen for vice chairman.
I would second that and say that he has been a board member for several years and certainly a mentor to me over the last 4 years, and I have every confidence that he will serve this position well.
Any other nominations? All right, then if you would please fill out the yellow ballot and pass it to your left. Suppose while we're doing that, we could also, I'll wait, she's actually the secretary, so we can't get ahead of ourselves.
Recordings
Yeah.
next to it.
Eight to nothing.
Okay. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
And the third position would be for secretary. Is there a nomination?
I'd like to move that Katie Balistraci be our secretary. After 6 years of service, she's signed up again. We're continuing on, and I look forward to her serving as secretary. I'll second that.
Second? Okay. Any other nominations? If
Spelling error.
that's you can use initiative.
Help if it's spelled out.
I know.
A lot of vowels in there.
You're it. Thank you.
Thank you all very much, and Why don't we move to item 5 on the agenda, which is action on the minutes of October 10 regular meeting and October 23 workshop meeting. Anybody who was not here at the last meeting obviously should just abstain on this vote. So is there a motion to approve the minutes of October 10?
So moved. Second.
Changes, corrections, clarifications?
I had 2 corrections, if I may. On page 4, directly under number 7, the first name should be Brendan with an N.
Anything else?
And then, excuse me, on page 5, under communications, Dr. Balastraci noted that she had received communication from a parent with a question regarding, I actually furthered the question with student input, so I would simply like to ask opportunities for student input on to be stricken and say that the question was regarding teacher evaluations, which better reflects the particular community member's question. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? All right, with those clarifications, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed, and 2 abstentions. October 23, 2017 workshop meeting, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
I have an addition. Second.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Sands.
On this number 2 point in the second paragraph, should read, Chairman Bloss reported that the bond service costs
Okay,
will increase.
right, okay, that's fine, yep. Anything else? All right, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and 2 abstentions.
And I'll abstain as well.
Okay, Ms. Sullivan abstains as well. All right, great, thank you. Item 6 on the agenda is public forum for topics on the board agenda. Has anybody got anything that they'd like to bring to our attention that's on the agenda? Okay. Ms. Sullivan reviewed the expenditures for the month of October.
I did. The expenditures for the month of October were $4,546,200.61. So that makes the expenditures and encumbrances through the end of October nearly identical to last October, 28.69 to 27.6. We did talk about the financials in great detail during our operations meeting. So unless there are any additional questions, that is a motion to approve financials for October.
Okay, motion to approve the expenditures for the month of October has been made.
So moved.
Second. Any other questions, comments? Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So your first vote is to approve $4.5 million. How does that feel? All right, item 8 on the agenda, communications. I think I had a couple that we can talk about as the subjects have popped up, but are there others that, or as we talk about the subjects later, are there any other communications?
None.
Okay. All right, item 9, student representatives.
So currently at Melissa Jones, there it was a book fair last week, and following the book fair, one of the nights they had an ice cream social, which the kids were really excited about and was really popular. Also on Friday, they had over 30 veterans visit the school, and which the students performed poems, songs, and they also hosted a push-up challenge with the veterans. And the veterans also visited classes to talk to the students. And also they are following in the lead of the Guilford High School Can Drive, and are also hosting a Can Drive through the Student Council for the Guilford Food Bank. Yeah, that's basically it for Melissa Jones.
At Calvin Lee School observed Veterans Day with an all-school assembly to honor and recognize veterans and active duty service members within the school community. 22 guests attended the ceremony, including parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, and other relatives and neighbors. After introducing the guest, fourth grade students shared information about Veterans Day, the branches of the armed forces, and ways to honor those who serve our country. The lead students also energetically sang a few songs for the audience. And at A.W. Cox Elementary School, on Friday, November 10th, A.W. Cox also held a school-wide assembly to honor school family members who served in the U.S. military armed forces. Guilford Spirit Day will be held on November 21st and the students are encouraged to wear green and white to show their Guilford pride. And finally, the first Student of the Month ceremony, where students were earned recognition for exhibiting kindness, took place in October.
And from Baldwin Middle School, parent-teacher conferences are being held this afternoon and tomorrow evening, as well as they had a fantastic Veterans Day experience starting a week before, where students were asked to initiate an at-home activity with their parents to discuss veterans and to help work on a thank you for your service display at the school. And then on Veterans Day, they had a ceremony honoring the veterans and recognized veterans on staff, as well as the entire school joined in on singing the Star Spangled Banner. And the 6th grade recently took a trip to the United States Coast Guard Academy to listen to the band that played there. And supposedly they had a very musical and wonderful time there. And from Adams Middle School, all the 8th grade students participated in the Witness Stones installation down in downtown Guilford on November 2nd. And the 8th grade researched and learned about those who lived in Guilford during the 1700s and 1800s, as well as recently on October 27th, the National Junior Honor Society ran the Halloween dance and costume contest at the school, which ended up being very successful. And the Adams Student Council held a breakfast for the local veterans that visited the school that day, and they were able to interact, as well as they had an assembly there to talk about veterans.
Okay, and at the high school, so this past weekend was the opening weekend / final weekend for the play Metamorphosis, which was directed by a senior at the high school, William Breeze, and it went really well. We had 3 shows at 7 o'clock starting on Thursday, and currently now theater is working on the auditions for School of Rock, which will take place between April and May of this year. And also, last week we started the can drive for through Action Against Hunger, and boxes are already piling up in all our classes, and we're hoping to get truckloads like we normally do each year.
So the fall sports season is winding down. At this point in their season, the football team is 4-4. The boys soccer team finished the regular season with a record of 14-1-1. They lost in the quarterfinals of SEC and are playing in the semifinals of the Class L state tournament tonight against Hand. The girls soccer team finished the regular season 8-3-5 and made it to the quarterfinals of the SEC tournament and the second round of the Class L state tournament. The field hockey team finished the regular season 13-2-1. They made it to the semifinals of the SECs and the semifinals of the Class L state tournament and they are playing in the semifinals of the Class L state tournament against Hand. The girls volleyball team went 18-2. They were the SEC runners-up and are in the semifinals of the Class L tournament against Ram. The boys cross-country team finished 8-1, and they came in 7th at the SEC meet and 3rd at the Class M state tournament. And the girls cross-country team finished the season undefeated. They finished 1st in the SEC meet, and they were state runners-up, and they also finished 20th in the New England tournament. And lastly, the girls swimming team had a very good first varsity season, and they're looking forward to next year. In addition, we have our Unity Spirit Week coming up. This Wednesday is Sports Jersey Day, and there will be a pep rally on November 21st in preparation for the Guilford versus Hand football game, which is on the 22nd.
And finishing up from the high school, parent-teacher conferences are this week held on Wednesday and Thursday. As well as something I'm sure many people will be glad to hear is that the Start Time Committee had their first meeting, which included parents, teachers, administration, and students. And we talked about what the vision for the Start Time Committee will be and what we plan to do, and it was very successful. I'm sure some other people might have some things to talk about, but it was very successful, and we look forward to working on it in the future.
Great, thank you. Questions? Comments?
Well, 2 comments. One, we did quite well athletically this past year.
Really good season.
Very impressive.
Right.
Is this the second year, sorry, my memory's here, it's the second year we've done Veterans Day now in school?
This is the second year that we've been in session and made Veterans Day an event and focus instructionally in our schools, and yeah, it went very well again this year.
Yeah, it sounds like it was another successful year of doing that.
Very well received, and I think very much appreciated by the veterans who participated. All of the veterans that I interacted with around the district, I thanked them for coming, and to a person, the response was, no, thank you for doing this. They very much appreciate the opportunity to be in schools and be with students on Veterans Day.
And were all three of you able to attend the Veterans Day presentation here? I think it was in this room, correct?
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay, terrific. I think it happened through social studies classes?
Yes.
Okay.
What, some of the other districts on the shoreline, what do they do for Veterans Day?
Similar events. I think that Old Saybrook may have been one of the first shoreline communities to begin school on Veterans Day. I know that East Lyme has school on Veterans Day, and I know that to a degree there's some competition. I know that Ken Gammerman, for instance, from the Board of Finance, spends Veterans Day in at least 3 school districts at this time. He visits his grandchildren in their school district. I believe that he is a regular in Old Saybrook, and I know that last year, I'm not sure if we had Ken this year, I didn't see him. But there's a bit of a competition to see who you can find who can come and visit your schools, be recognized, but also engage in a conversation with the students and talk about what military service looks like and what it means to be in military service to your country.
Great. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Well, good. Thank you very much, and it'll keep us up to date on the start time.
Will do.
We'll see you on the 21st.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Freeman?
So if I may, before jumping into my formal report, which is actually fairly brief tonight, I do just want to follow up. Veterans Day was incredibly successful. And I also want to follow on the student-directed play. Metamorphosis was amazing, and I hope a number of you had a chance. I know that a number of you got to be there Thursday night. It was student-led in every piece. So the directing, the set construction, the crew, and the acting on stage. To take 10 Greek myths and to bring them to life in our high school, it was a spectacular event, and it was student-directed and student-led, and I agree with the student reps. It was a real success. The actual content of my report, I do need to let you know that I have approved an overnight field trip. Our girls cross-country team made it to New England Regionals. I approved for them a Friday night overnight as they were required to travel to Belfast, Maine to participate in this event. They were there on Saturday. I know that Mr. Bloss was there. I know that it was a very successful event for the girls cross-country team. A good experience and a good event. Bill, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add.
Well, they had a great year. They came in 20th in New England. They came in 4th in the state, 2nd in Class L. My daughter, the runner daughter, is mad at me. She is blaming. We're like 10 kids, 10 girls. The boys run in Class Double M because it's based on how many boys or girls. And she would have won Double M, but the girls run in Class L because they have about 10 or something more students than above the threshold for Class L. And she blames building the new high school.
So she's holding you personally.
Exactly. Personally responsible for her for not being in Double M, because otherwise enrollment would theoretically be down in her mind. But it's okay. It's fine. But it was a terrific trip. 25 degrees with 25-mile-an-hour wind at race time. That was not ideal, but whatever. It was the same for everybody. So, but no, the team really got great support from the administration and the athletic department. So, and Jim Ford, I should recognize, is the coach, has been around since my stepdaughter was a runner back in the 90s, I guess, and
before that.
And before that, yeah. No, he's done a fabulous job with them, and they really. Four of the girls made all first team All SEC, and the 5th made second team All SEC. So that's pretty good. They had a great year.
to your point, Dr. Balistraci, it's been an incredibly successful athletic game.
Really
And the only reason
remarkable.
Mr. Macenti is not with us tonight is that he is at the
Right,
boys' soccer game.
he's at the boys' soccer
Yes.
game, absolutely, where he should be.
Yeah, it was a really good fall season.
Terrific.
Following up on that, a little bit more good news. The state has settled a budget. At this point, the state does have a budget, and it does have educational figures in that. We are currently awaiting final figures and official notification of the state. We will see a reduction in the educational grants that we receive from the state, but we will not see a reduction at the level or of the scope that was possible. And so we should see a reduction in state grants of approximately $250,000 this year. Our budget has accounted for that, and so we will not be seeing mid-year rescissions. You will not be seeing reductions in spending in mid-year. So we'll get final figures, we'll get confirmation from the state, and we will continue to move forward with a successful school year in this current budget season. At the same time, you know that we have begun our budget work with you at the board level. This year you have met with the leadership team, we have hosted public hearings, and today we began receiving the official budget packages back from our building level and department level leaders at the district level. We are beginning to build that budget. We will have a first draft of an administrative budget prepared and available for you when we return from winter break, at which point the board will begin your deliberations on what the budget for the 18-19 school year looks like. And shockingly, and this is not usual, but that completes my report for tonight.
Gee, I must be having problems with my watch.
Okay.
Unless there are questions from the board.
I didn't hear any.
Did you?
I didn't either, no. Okay, item 11, board agenda. Item 11.1 is to act on two personnel items. One is to ratify the appointment of Claire McCarthy as a special education teacher full-time at Baldwin. The other is to ratify the appointment of Julie Swanson, elementary Spanish at Cox Elementary School. That's a .8 position. Both of them effective already. So is there a motion to ratify those appointments?
So moved?
Second.
Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Is that everything now?
Yes, with one exception, with the exception of a part-time school psychologist position that was new to the budget this year. We were holding on that until the state settled. Both of those positions were the last full-time certified positions, and that part-time school psychologist position is currently posted, and we will begin hiring and filling that position moving forward as well. And then we will be fully hired up.
Okay. 11.2 is to act on and to approve a donation from the Calvin Leet PTO in the amount of $9,402.06 for an outdoor classroom. Maybe you should explain what that is.
If I may, I know that Mr. Grimm is in the
Oh,
audience.
sure.
If I could invite Mr. Grimm to come forward and talk about the outdoor classroom. I know that it's been an exciting project at Leet, and he likes when I surprise him. Thank you, Bill.
So the outdoor classroom was really a collaborative idea and effort on behalf of the LEAT PTO, myself representing the LEAT staff. Just looking for, 2 years ago we built a garden outside the south wing, and just the other side of that sidewalk was a fantastic space to build an outdoor classroom area. And just looking at ways to provide different experiences for kids. So through a brainstorming and design process and that took place over the course of almost all of last year. And Mary Best was one of our co-presidents of the PTO, and with their support, both through the process and the LEAT PTO financially, we built an outdoor classroom space this past summer. And also with the assistance of Cliff Gurnham, made it a place that's an area that's safe with cameras and alarms and buzzers on the doors to get back in the building and those types of things. But we basically cleared a space and reused pebbles from the Melissa Jones Playground to cover that space, installed some concrete benches, and a parent built a cabinet that has a blackboard in it, and it's a space where teachers can take classes outside. I've taken classes outside just to do some activities, and it's perfect for science and just going out to read or whatever it might be. But real collaborative effort, an exciting place to be. I don't know how much it will be used during the winter, but it's certainly an area that is exciting for the kids to go out and use. So thank the LEAP PTO for all their support in so many ways.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So I think, was a motion made? I don't think so. Did anybody make a motion to approve the donation?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Mr. Sands. And Ms. Sullivan seconds. All right. Any other questions or comments? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? And obviously, with our thanks to the
Extend your thanks.
to the
It's an
PTO.
exciting
No, that's
space.
fabulous. No, that's very, very good. So tonight, 11.3 is to just consider appointing a member to the LEARN Board of Directors. The LEARN is our RESC, a Regional Education Service Center. You didn't think I was going to?
Afraid to help.
Yeah, I saw you there. And it's a very good thing to do. I think Dr. Moore was our representative, and his schedule was flexible enough that he could do that. And I know it's tricky because they meet during the day.
Mrs. Dudley had served in that role for a long
Right.
time.
Right.
So if somebody can commit to that now, that'd be great. Or if not, just maybe shoot me an email and see what we can do about having a representative, because it is a really good thing. And I know that you've gone to some of the meetings and talked to them about what's happening regionally on some issues like start times, like some of the transportation issues and so forth. So I definitely think we ought to try to do this.
And I've served on their executive committee. If any board members have questions about the commitment or about the work that LEARN does, I'd be happy to answer any of those questions.
Okay.
What are the hours?
When they meet,
It's a monthly board meeting, and it is, so their meeting was last Thursday, so was that the second or third Thursday of the month? Second Thursday of the month. It's 9 in the morning. It usually goes from about 9 to 11 or 9 to noon on a Thursday.
and they meet in Old Lyme.
Yep, it meets at the LEARN offices on Hatchetts Hill Road in Old Lyme. It's off exit 71.
All right, so if anybody wants to do that, just send me an email and we can try to get that done, hopefully for the next meeting.
Great.
Item 11.4 is to this is a receive-only item, and this is to receive a draft 2018-19 school calendar. Obviously, this is not, we can ask any questions we want, but we're not going to vote on this tonight. Is there a theme to this? Is it?
Yes, so I'm happy to give you the highlights.
Sure.
So again, this calendar, as we have done in the past several years, is built off the collaborative regional calendar that is put together at LEARN. And so LEARN gathers the schools, the school districts from both Middlesex County and from the southeastern shoreline, and puts together, as best we can, a collaborative, cooperative calendar. And so the highlights, therefore, in this calendar, you will see 180 school days as our teacher contract supports. First day of school on Thursday, August 30th. We have 5 professional development days that are built into our calendar. You will see that those days continue to be front-loaded. We believe that we get the best value out of those days by using them in a block at the beginning of the school year. And so those days are a combination of district-wide work, building-level work, and in many of the schools include opportunities for the newest students to come in and have an orientation to the school. The 4th professional development day, you will see again, falls on Election Day. We have tried to move our professional development days to the regularly scheduled annual election day so that students are not in the buildings, as 4 of our buildings serve as election sites, and that is a shared regional professional development day. So we do have the opportunity of working collaboratively with other school districts. Same goes for the 5th day that you see on March 8th. That, again, is a collaborative professional development day, so that does give us the opportunity to collaborate or take advantage of other offerings that other school districts are placing out there. You will note that the December and April vacations are also in alignment with the other neighboring school districts. You'll also note the number of early release days identified in Wednesdays in yellow. So those are days where students are dismissed early and our staff members have in-depth professional development or deeper professional development that takes place on those days. I do want to note that we had some extensive conversation about that professional development day in March, and in fact looked at questions that were raised here last year. We did look at opportunity to move that day into February, and in fact to tie that day around the long weekend that you see in February. Again, you'll notice there is not a full week of vacation in February, as is becoming more and more commonplace. While we talked about it and while we saw a lot of pros and cons, we ultimately decided to carry it forward in March on this draft that we present to you because of the commonality with the other school districts, because of our concerns about weather impact in February. We have had other professional development days impacted by weather events. While we know we're not guaranteed anything on March 8th, it's less likely that people that we bring in or planning that we have put in place will be impacted. And so with a lot of conversation and a lot of pros and cons, we ultimately decided to keep it here, knowing that this is a receive item and that we'll have time to have further conversation with all of you on that topic. This calendar as presented has a projected final day of school on June 12th, and again noting there are no built-in snow days. Any snow cancellations or unexpected storm cancellations due to downed limbs and power would result in days being added on beginning with the 13th and 14th and carrying on if necessary from that point forward. So we present this to you. We're happy to have further conversation with all of you about it. It was, in fact, a fairly straightforward calendar that bears a lot of similarity to this year's. There's nothing really unusual in this year's calendar.
What's the cutoff point in June before we have to start considering April vacation days?
We are not allowed to push school into July, and so the way it falls, you've got 12 days there. I am very hesitant to begin looking at a vacation, especially without a February break.
Okay, no, I'm not suggesting
right.
it.
Yeah, so it would be...
It's not a promotion.
It would be unlikely that I'd begin looking at anything unless we were pushing into that final week of June.
So I've noticed a lot of, I know we're all trying to go to a regional calendar, but I'm noticing more and more districts in neighboring towns like Branford and Madison going back to the after Labor Day school start. Have you spoken with superintendents or gotten any sense of what other boards are doing? Have they not gotten to this yet for the next year? Did you get a sense from your Learn meeting whether or not they would be starting prior to Labor Day? Or?
We did. We talked about it quite a bit, and often what tends to happen is people that are grabbing that model when they have construction or moves. So I believe just as we did when it was around the moving for this building, Branford, I know, has a construction project that is happening. I believe Madison, when they opened late, may have been connected.
They did 2 years ago, but then this past year it was curious that they decided to go that route again.
Madison has frequently been.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
They
I think
were,
that's for them.
3 years ago they were on schedule with us. They opened prior to Labor Day. 2 years ago they didn't because they had a construction project, and then they just followed suit again to open after Labor Day this past year. So I don't know what they'll do. I don't know if they're getting pressure to do that from their community or...
There was a lot of conversation about it. I know that opening day for most school districts will be Wednesday the 29th. Most don't have 5 full professional development days or don't load all of them in the front the way that we do. A number of school districts will place a professional development day after the last day of school, and we resist doing that because it's just not good learning time. And so many of our neighbors will have students in schools on the 29th. We have held off a day because of that. There was a lot of talk about it, and most districts, because of weather concerns, are really sort of, the majority will be opening the week that we open, and most will be opening on the 29th, not the 30th.
Yeah, in fact, didn't we have to cancel a PD day last year and move it to the end of the year? Yeah. You almost have to allow for that to happen and not have, a scheduled PD day at the end of the year.
When you think about last week, I didn't build this into my report. There is information on the website available. I know that Lori Hahn actually sent a news item home. But on last Tuesday, on Election Day, we had all of our principals and nearly all of our central office staff, as well as 2 fellows from IFL who traveled in from Pittsburgh. And there were learning opportunities that were happening all throughout the school district, and including one of the Yale Art Galleries on Chapel Street. All of our principals working with Mr. Grimm was here at the high school working with the K through 12 music department. To put that kind of planning and preparation, we've been working on last Tuesday for a year.
Yeah, last May.
Yeah, when you put all of that planning in place and you've got folks traveling in from out of state, to have that sort of weather impact, it's kind of catastrophic. And the year that we had, it was one of the hurricanes, we lost all 3 of our professional days up front and ended up building in moving and flexible and independent study where teachers were tracking the time that they were putting in. It gets really complicated. So I know that we've placed them for good learning. I know that we've placed them a little conservatively to try to make sure that none of that gets disrupted. We were really trying to be very thoughtful about where we placed those days and looked at how they balance the early release days as well.
Well, and this year we've already lost a day.
Yep.
Yep.
But not 2.
But it came close to 2.
It was very close to being 2.
Okay, well, so this is just to receive tonight, and I don't think there's even any urgency that we vote on this. Is there at the next meeting?
No urgency. We have begun to get a few phone calls. People do like to be able to plan ahead, so it doesn't have to be voted on in the next meeting, and I'm happy to have conversations or answer questions in between this meeting and your next, where it will be a possible action item. But if there are questions or if there are revisions that you would like us to consider, there's no requirement that it be passed at the next meeting.
Okay, sure. All right, good. Okay, next item on the agenda is just, it's actually 3 receive items. 11.4 is to receive, 11.5 is to receive the BOE, the Board of Education proposed meeting calendar. It's really just following the pattern that we're in, with the exception of the holidays, Monday holidays, second and fourth Mondays. 11.6 is to receive the various committee meeting tentative schedule, at least to have a schedule, but obviously the committees can meet whenever they want, and meetings are frequently added as long as they're properly noticed. So, does anybody have any comments on either of these items, or you just want to keep them in your file?
It doesn't make any sense to act on those before you act on the school calendar. Those are all just follow-ons.
Right. Okay. Item 12 is committee reports. Policy committee.
Policy committee is meeting in 2 weeks, so we will have a much more in-depth report at our next Board of Ed meeting.
Okay. And operations committee, was there anything that came up in operations that you want to talk about?
There wasn't. We've just begun, and I was temporarily chairing while we're in between electing a committee chair. We discussed upcoming bonding issues. We discussed the performance engineering contract, and we discussed the financials, which we voted on.
Okay. Any other comments about that meeting? One thing, the food service report that we got, there are average 100 breakfasts a morning being served here at the high school, which is a big increase.
I think Erica said we've doubled our breakfast service. Yes, it's exciting.
Yeah, and just because you brought up food service, I just want to mention the community dinner and commend Erica Biagetti, our food service director, for putting it together in conjunction this time with the Guilford Center for Children, because it was a great community event. It really showcased the great things that are happening within food service within our school system, but also, like I said, just a great community event, getting everybody together.
And
there will be more.
There will be 3 more of those this year,
Yes,
with
I
the
was
next
happy to hear
scheduled
that.
for January 11th.
Yeah.
Okay, the curriculum instruction and assessment committee. I guess we really don't have a report on that, do we? We have a meeting, or do we?
We just had a meeting.
We
Okay.
met before our last workshop meeting.
That's right.
We will be needing to appoint a chair, I believe.
Right, and okay, so
And we discussed the status of how the homework policy was being implemented.
That's right.
During that time, and as well as looked at Smart Balance growth reports. So all the principals were there to share that information.
Okay.
So our next meeting's not until January.
Right.
and when we'll be looking at the science curriculum.
Great. Town committee liaisons, any town committees that we want to talk about?
Land Acquisition Committee met, and no board business was discussed.
Okay.
The Health Wellness Committee met. We meet probably 3 times a year. So we had our first meeting of the year last week, the week before. I'm sorry, I'm losing time. This past month. And we do a couple of things. One of the things we did was talk about the process in which school administrators kind of keep track of any kind of special food use throughout the year, and we'll be looking at the specifics of that process in terms of forms that have to be filled out by staff and then by administrators that will then create a report that comes to the Board of Ed. I know that Mr. Raven and I think Mrs. Ott met with the district leadership at the beginning of this school year to kind of update the leadership on our wellness policy, what the policy means in terms of kind of any extra food in the schools, as well as just general food service in the schools, particularly since we've had quite a bit of turnover in leadership over the past 4 or 5 years. So there's an emphasis by the committee to make sure that the implementation of that policy in the schools is happening as is expected.
Okay. Great. Anybody else? Any other town committees? All right. Item 13, public questions or comments? Anybody? Please.
I'm glad there's comments, because I wasn't sure if I'd have to phrase it in the form of a question.
We tend not to be too formal.
I just wanted to publicly say, in regards to the Start School Later initiative, thank you to the board. Welcome to the new members. Thank you to Dr. Freeman. It's off to a start with the task force. We're very appreciative. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Just give us your name and address if you can, please.
Sure. I'm Lisa Barbario. I'm at 710 Alexander Drive in Guilford, and I'm here to represent Shoreline Tech. Shoreline Tech is a group that just formed this year in May. We came together haphazardly when we were waiting for our children to exit a leadership seminar, and we thought we were just getting a seminar on how to develop contracts for device management at home. And fortunately, we were met by Rosemary Conforti, who is a social worker and a clinical psychologist. Would you? Okay, I was way off. But she was informative nonetheless, and she introduced us to what the effects are of devices. And needless to say, it was just a half hour's time that we were given. But the group was quite vibrant afterwards, and we continue the conversation, recognizing the impact that technology and devices are having on our kids. Since then, we've grown to about 80 members now, and they're mostly made of parents and actually medical people. Would you say that, Jill? Okay, I would say 50% of our group is made up of those who are dealing with the effects of technology and devices. So we're grateful for that. So Shoreline Tech's mission is, our mission is to help families and schools, children and communities make informed decisions about their use of technology and devices, to heighten awareness and initiate change that will positively impact our children. So what brings us here today, we're going to do this, by the way, in a number of ways, and I'll spare you the pages of information for now. But we pledged, and this is where we'll ask Mrs. Jody Ambrosini to come and speak to us. But we pledged to continually help our children to live in a healthy, supportive, and developmentally appropriate learning environment by continually evaluating technological surroundings and learning and communicating the latest research to stakeholders with the intent of adjusting the environment accordingly. So the good news for teachers and administrators and folks like you is that we're here to help, and that's what we're looking to do as parents. So without further ado, Dr. Jody Ambrosini.
Good evening. So, just to reiterate, I am a parent in the Shoreline Tech Group as well as a psychologist and work with children and adolescents. And, we're here tonight because we really do value the importance of technology and its role in education. We are also very aware of the many pitfalls and potential dangers. And as parents, we want really to be well prepared to ensure that our children are using these tools in thoughtful, responsible, and safe ways. That is, for learning, as was intended by the district. Currently, this is not necessarily the case, and we have learned from our children that the Chromebooks that were sent home for educational purposes are being used outside of those realms, specifically to watch YouTube videos, to download games, to make movies with their webcam, and to access Netflix. Additionally, distracting advertisements pop up on the Google Classroom that have nothing to do with the intended lesson and communicate mixed messages on various topics that can be really confusing to the developing set of values of our children. Moving forward, we need to better prepare to ensure that these educational tools that were distributed to every student in our district are being managed well to safeguard and protect our kids. So, and to this end, we have several questions. What changes in the safeguards are being considered to what was put in place? We understand that Go Guardian, I think, is currently in place, and wondering what changes might be made that could be doing a better job of filtering out some of that information and access to that information. Are there better safeguards that can be considered, and how is the district intending to disseminate that information to the parents? How is the decision to rely increasingly more on Google Classroom for teaching being made, and what is the evidence about its benefits? And can families choose to opt out of having a Chromebook in their home? And more long-term, what is the district's plan for use of technology in the education of our youth? So we know that technology is here to stay and has many benefits. And while we certainly don't want to interfere with our children's education, we also don't want to watch their education get derailed by something that, ironically, is supposed to help them. We want to work together with our district to more thoroughly think through the role that technology can play in our youth's education so that we can be informed and prepared to safely use these tools. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess I should mention that we actually have already previously scheduled a workshop on this very issue, or some of these issues. And
yeah, we have an agenda item on your next workshop meeting to address a number of the questions that were just articulated. And I think it's worth noting that many of those are broad, and they're big questions that will have ongoing answers. They're not necessarily simple yes or no responses. And so it's an agenda item to begin a conversation that is an important conversation. I appreciate having the questions raised here.
Right.
So we should point out that workshop meeting is on the 27th of this month, and it's at the Melissa Jones School at 7:30.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
public meeting, everybody's invited.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Correct.
Yes.
Right. Okay, good. Any other public questions or comments?
Has that workshop been publicized?
Well, it's really just a Board of Education meeting. When I call it a workshop, it's a Board of Education meeting workshop. I'm sure, I shouldn't say anything, I'm sure of anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if out of that Board of Education meeting that there may well be subsequent meetings for the community, where the community specifically is invited to talk to administration. It wouldn't shock me at all. But this is really just to get some information from the Board of Ed point of view about what the practices are and what's under consideration, and then in answering what should be implemented that's under consideration, I would expect that there would be some community meetings.
exactly right.
But
All-
yes,
all
it's
of
a
our
regularly scheduled, the second Monday and the fourth Monday of every month are meetings.
The workshop
and this-
meetings, are non-televised, public meetings, but where we really kind of more casually get to talk about the topics that are presented and help, plan for the future.
And they don't typically have public input on the agenda, but the public is welcome.
Right, so we're welcome to come and listen, but it's not like a public invite is going out this week.
No, so it's, all of our Board of Ed meetings, the public are welcome except for executive sessions. And the second Monday of every month is called a workshop meeting as Mrs. Fourth Monday, sorry. And as Mrs. Sullivan was describing, unlike the meeting that happens at the second Monday where public input is part of the agenda, it is not part of the agenda for the workshop meeting, but it is a meeting where we get to, as again Mrs. Sullivan said, kind of talk about particular issues and dive into them in a way we may not get at this meeting.
And to Mr. Bloss's point, it's not at all unlikely that meeting won't spark further community forums or community conversations that will come off of the heels of that meeting.
Okay. Any other public questions or comments? Yeah.
How do we follow up on the results of that meeting?
Well, there will be, I wouldn't be surprised. The question was, how do we follow up on the results of the meeting? I'm gathering that there may well be people who are present at it, so you may want to email some of your colleagues. But there will also be minutes posted and that would be acted on at our December, the second Monday meeting in December.
December 11th.
Right.
December 11th, yeah.
And then whatever arises out of it in terms of what any further meetings, those would be publicized, so.
Correct.
Right. Yes, please, come on up.
My name's Jill Paglino, and do you want to know where I live?
Yep.
Can you really hear me?
Well, that's just really for recording for the,
Oh, okay.
that doesn't amplify.
Oh, I live on Edgewood Drive. I just wanted to back up what Jody said about the opt-out policy. I am one of those people who would like to opt out of the Chromebook coming home for a couple of reasons. One reason is my son's backpack's really heavy, and it's hurting him. The second reason is we already have access to Google Classroom via like the 3 computers we already have in our home. So he can always do homework without the Chromebook. And if I wanted him to have his own laptop, I would have bought him one. And also, this is something that I can't password protect or put limits on, as far as I know. Everything else in my house has a password on it, and we strictly watch their screen time. And then this other device has been introduced into my home that I can't control. So I wasn't really happy about that, and I asked the principal if I could opt out, and I never received an answer. So I just want to go on record as I'm one parent who would like to opt out if I can.
All right, well, we're going to talk about those issues, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other comments or questions? All right. We do have an executive session to talk about negotiations with one of our bargaining units, the clerical and paraprofessional unit. So we will be going, is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, what that means is we're now going to meet without the public, so because it is a labor negotiation, and that is by law exempt from public meetings, we will adjourn. We will come into public session only for the purposes of adjourning, and there will be no further public votes this evening. So thank you all very much.
Have a good trip.
Thank you very much.
Nothing.